On this episode, we talk about The Rock's surprise return, new members to the Wyatt family, the Rollins Hell in a Cell match, listener questions, and a country album by Grandmaster Sexay. Now, on Byte That. Welcome everybody to episode 59 of Byte That, the somewhat, maybe international professional wrestling podcast where we talk about the ups and downs of that which we love, which is Teddy Long selling Viagra. Thank you everybody that hits the download button, checks out the podcast on a weekly basis. Yeah, check out the news. It's a thing that's been going on. Because Ryan and Keith are just looking at me like, what's going on? Holla holla playa, holla holla. If you want to keep hollering, check out the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Byte That Cast, where we got the podcast, we got all sorts of stuff. You get to see Ryan's beautiful mug once a week. It's a very good time. My name is Juan Velas. I am from San Juan, Puerto Rico, and as you can probably tell, I'm joined by the entire cast. I missed you guys. So first, all the way from Boston, Massachusetts, Mr. Perfect Attendance himself, Ryan McNulty.
Is that Teddy Long thing real?
Yeah.
Be honest, it is. Are you kidding me? Wow.
Yeah, so there's a little something to check out for Byte That After Dark.
Oh, wow, I'm stunned.
Yeah. And all the way from the Double F in Manitoba, Keith Poshik returns.
Yay! Let the record show that before this podcast started being recorded, me and Ryan had an argument about Jason Derulo. That's what kind of episode it's going to be this week.
Yeah, I was a little afraid. That lasted like 10 minutes, way too long. But obviously, we got a lot of stuff we got to talk about. Now, let me just give the 1 minute summary of like every week we talk about, hey, there's nothing going on Raw. Raw's being a little bit stale. You know, then there's a Rusev segment. I'm just sort of talking with Ryan and our friend Jamie. And then all of a sudden, it's like, hey, The Rock's here. Well, what's up with that? Did anybody see that coming?
No, but you know what? It was, for once in quite a while, it was a genuine surprise, and that's what I really liked about this. Even if it's probably just a one-off appearance, I mean, how can you not appreciate a surprise appearance from The Rock? I thought it was an entertaining segment, and I just like to be surprised every now and again, you know? Come on, guys.
Because of the way my brain works, it reminded me a lot of when he came out and like to defend Eugene all those years ago. It was just a genuine surprise, completely out of nowhere, and it was awesome. In a world where everything gets spoiled and everything's teased on Twitter, this was a genuine surprise.
Not necessarily genuine. We actually just overlooked because after that happened, I went on the the dirt sheets, and The Rock was actually.
There's your first mistake.
Yeah, but I did that after, sir. I did that because it was so shocking to me that nobody was talking about this. I mean, usually this stuff gets spoiled, and I'm actually really glad that it wasn't. But then when I went on one of the websites, it was revealed that The Rock was in New York, so obviously there was that speculation. So that's why a couple of people on Twitter were sort of going like, yeah, we expected it, but how nice was it that we accidentally didn't, stumble upon that, and we were actually surprised.
It's starting to make me think whether or not I should actually read the dirt sheets as often as I do. Because I actually do like to be surprised, and maybe it's one of the reasons that it's making wrestling a little bit harder to watch recently. But then at the same time, it makes for some good discussion videos on the weekends, so I'm kind of at a crossroads right now about whether or not I should read into the wrestling news more often than not.
Well, one of the things that I do want to get to directly about this is, I mean, yeah, The Rock's back, but you think it's a stare down with maybe the Authority, something about the bigger talent, maybe even Seth Rollins to put over the fact, he's Mr. Money in the Bank and all that, but he comes out against Rusev and Lana. So part one of this is sort of, were you surprised in a good way that he came out with Rusev and Lana, or was it just like really like this is what they're using The Rock for?
Do you think it was some sort of backlash to the whole Russian flag thing that happened last week? Like, hey, let's forget about all that. Here's The Rock. Surprise.
I think it's that the WWE probably got a couple more eyeballs watching the product, so they're probably like, well, maybe the controversial stuff is going to be on Rusev, so you sort of combine the things that people maybe are talking about the most. Plus, I know you're a football fan, Mr. McNulty, and that was sort of like the halftime or something. It was the half thing of the football thing where they throw the ball.
Okay. I think what Juan's trying to
balls,
say, or at least I'm going to try and decipher what Juan said, and that is I think the way that they were handling the Big Show situation with the Russian flag, they said he was inactive this week and was going through sensitivity training, which are obviously inactive is a term used in football, and also the sensitivity training, which a lot of football players who have misbehaved, whether it's domestic violence or something else, they'll go to these courses and stuff. So I felt like this was, kind of a callback to a lot of the behavioral issues that are happening in the NFL. And it's not unlike WWE to, make pokes at the NFL.
When did wrestling have sensitivity training? Like, think about all the dumb stuff that happens in wrestling, and this gets sensitivity training?
Randy Orton doesn't get sensitivity training for punting somebody's dad in the head or punting a woman or whatever,
Like giving birth to hands. Like there's so many things where it's just like, you know what? The past is definitely
we
the past.
Needed sensitivity training from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But having said that, having that context, were you happy it was with Rusev? I mean, yeah, there was the whole flag apology thing we talked about last week, but was it a good choice?
I think so, because right now they're building Rusev to be this monster, and it would have been nice to see Rusev get a little bit of offense on The Rock and it not be crazy one-sided, just to help build him up, but it's someone that caught the attention of The Rock, and I think that kind of means something in its own right.
I think Rusev was the right guy to kind of bring The Rock out and have a segment with, because you did mention, something with the Authority or Seth Rollins. Obviously, Seth Rollins is involved in a, big storyline right now, whereas Rusev has kind of just moved on from, Mark Henry. And I felt it was more, a fitting appearance to be with Rusev.
Yeah, honestly, if The Rock came and interrupted that storyline, it would almost dilute it, kind of. It wouldn't have the same impact of him showing up against Rusev, because it'd just be like, oh, hey, The Rock's here, and, oh, John Cena's in this storyline. Wonder if they're going to go thrice in a lifetime or something.
Oh, man. No, but it's obviously an interesting thing, because it's not even so much that it's Rusev, even though he's slowly talking more. He's still with Lana, so obviously the majority of the interaction was with Lana. So how do you think that played off? It was interesting to me, at least, that, he was openly acknowledging, that she's attractive. He wasn't doing like the filthy trash bag hoe type thing, although he did
Moscow moose knuckle.
Yeah, but like that. Yeah, no, obviously he said that, but he was still complimenting her.
Or like a streetwalker or something.
Yeah, but
some sort of streetwalker.
A nice one. There can be bad ones. I could say something.
How could you not know?
A nice streetwalker.
Though,
all right.
You knew the second The Rock was coming out there that he was gonna make some remarks like that to Lana. You knew it was gonna happen, and it was entertaining as always.
Mm-hmm. I just want to say Moscow moose knuckle again, because that's hilarious.
Hashtag Moscow moose knuckle.
So obviously the next thing that we got to talk about is
nice transition.
Of course.
Speaking of moose knuckles.
Speaking of moose knuckles. No, let's talk about Rusev for a couple minutes or two. How did this make him look? Because we're talking about that's cool. The Rock, Rusev, monster heel, but do you think this paid off?
All right, given how new Rusev is to the WWE, even getting beat up by The Rock is a good thing.
Exactly, and not only did he talk on the microphone, but didn't he say, call The Rock some stupid American trash or something like that?
Yeah, so he did. I think it was a really good benefit for him. Obviously, it kind of sucks for me, at least, that the Rusev didn't really dominate The Rock for a little bit or something. It was very much like The Rock getting some offense, segment ends. But in WWE's thing, the ball's in their court. Obviously, Rusev has a couple more eyeballs on him now. especially like maybe non-traditional wrestling fans tuned in just for The Rock. So do you think that the WWE can really capitalize on this situation with Rusev? Or is it just going to be like, hey, they did a really cool thing and now we're back to normal?
Cena wins low.
I mean, I'm not sure without The Rock appearing again how much they can really get off of it more than this. But like you said, I think there's more eyes on him, and that's a good thing moving into his next program.
Exactly. If they keep building Rusev to be this bigger like monster, it could only be good.
Exactly. So it was nice to see The Rock, and it was funny because I remember that when we were watching Raw, I'm the one that usually complains about The Rock coming back and having all these one-time appearances, yet there I was going like, yeah! So it's always like, you know what? Like, I usually complain about The Rock coming back for these one-time things, but I've been so disappointed by the lack of surprises. I'll take The Rock, man. I'll take, bring Buck Funaki. You know, I know he's with Hideo or something backstage, but I'll take anybody.
Would you say, Juan, that finally we had a good segment?
Yeah.
Okay. Just checking.
To summarize, it was the type of segment that we need on a more regular basis. Not every week, but just something to really get that itch. Not the other one. This one sort of, getting scratched.
Yeah, that Moscow Moose Knuckle itch.
Now, somehow transitioning to this other thing, last week we talked about something that, Keith, you were very passionate about, and unfortunately you weren't here to really talk about it. So, for those that listen consistently, Keith is an avid lover of Mr. Luke Harper, who... Yeah, and for a little bit of context, last week we got a video package stating that he's sort of being let free. So all the speculation for the past week has been, Bray Wyatt's letting go, Eric Rowan's going nowhere. But then we get this new one that not only talks about Eric Rowan sort of being set free, we then get a smooth Bailey, talking about something coming soon. So, I mean, I know we try to avoid speculation,
so confusing.
But yeah, it's so much happening at the same time. Like, are we getting a bigger Wyatt family? Are they moving on, and then we get two more guys? Like, what's going on here? It's a lot to take in.
It is. It was a roller coaster. The last week has been a roller coaster, guys, because it hurt at first thinking that they're breaking up the Wyatt family, but then I thought, okay, well, Bray Wyatt's biggest weakness is the fact that he always has to rely on these dirty tactics to win. So you're taking away his backup, basically. So maybe it can help build Bray Wyatt to be this bigger character. And then it kind of confirmed it when they were setting Rowan free. And then all of a sudden, flip side. And now there's a new member of the Wyatt family. And now I'm totally and utterly confused because it kind of feels like Eric Rowan is just being set to die, basically, because how's he going to do on his own? We make jokes about it, but really, guys, how's he going to do?
How's he going to eat? I mean...
I know. How far can that sheep mask take him?
I said it last week. Highlanders version 2.0.
No, what you have to do is team him with Sheamus, and then they fuse their faces together. Then you have a 360, fire crotch beard going on.
360 fire crotch. Book that tag team. Make it happen. No, but yeah, I mean, obviously with that, there's a...
I was going to make a terrible joke.
Go for it. Say it.
Well, I was going to say, can they add Kel from Keenan and Kel and make it dance 360 fire crotch? Yep.
I don't even get that. That's beyond my head. Let's move on.
Well, it's a bad joke when you have to sort of give context to it. So
yeah. If I don't know it, that's a bad joke.
Right?
You know what? Somebody listening somewhere probably got a very, very, very microscopical type of chuckle out of it. That's probably good enough. So getting into mild spoiler territory here. So, earplugs for those that are listening. I don't know how that's going to happen, but there is a rumor online circulating that the Ascension could possibly be these people to replace Eric Rowan and Luke Harper. Personally, I think it actually makes a lot of sense. At first, you're like, Bray Wyatt's sort of different. But the way that I see it is that, you know what? Just make Bray Wyatt a manager for months and months. Just take him out of the ring. Like, have him build other people. Have him do all sorts of things. So when he does get back into the ring, people go like, oh man, we're so overexposed to him as a manager that it's going to be refreshing to see him as a wrestler again.
I agree with that point, but I don't think the Ascension are the right people for that. Like, their characters are kind of similar, but they're really different. And odds are they would probably mold the Ascension to be more along the lines of Bray Wyatt's crazy instead of their own. And I don't want the Ascension to change when they move up.
This, I really hope this isn't true. First of all, I like that the Ascension have their own identity, but now it's like you're just going to bring them up as Harper and Rowan version 2.0. I mean, you're taking a team of Harper and Rowan that work really well as this backwoods, grubby, hick-looking guys, and then you're just going to set them off. And like, how much are they going to change? And then you're going to bring up the Ascension, and how different are they going to look? How's their feel and look going to be different with Bray Wyatt than them? I feel like, I don't know, it doesn't make any sense to me, to be honest.
Yeah, it does feel like there needs to be a lot of compromise. I just think that the Ascension are not really known for talking a lot, and I'm not even saying they need to. Realistically, they could just be two big guys to really do that, but it almost makes sense that you bring Bray Wyatt, an established guy, to sort of welcome them in, and then maybe they last a couple of months only together, but they get introduced, they get built up, then they can knock Bray Wyatt down, that we can get that babyface Wyatt that we've been speculating for months, and then we get new stuff.
No, I really think that Harper, Rowan especially, is, like Keith said, just being sent to die, just to fall down the card, because like Harper and Rowan, they were getting over, but they are far from being comfortably established. And now you're just kind of throwing them off to build up some new guys. Like, maybe if Harper and Rowan were just on fire, super over with the crowd, and you were comfortable enough to be like, you know what, you guys can go on your own now. You don't even need Bray Wyatt anymore. But to be honest, I still think they really need Bray Wyatt.
It's almost a shame that the way that they're playing this is that Bray Wyatt's setting them free. Because what if the Ascension came in and they were like Bray Wyatt's quote-unquote destroyers? They're kind of he gets them to do the job that Harper and Rowan couldn't do, and then it could lead to a feud, which would actually probably produce some really crazy, brutal matches between the Ascension and Harper and Rowan. Harper and Rowan. I don't know if I said that right, but I'll say it again just in case.
Harper and Rowan. No, I do think that would actually be pretty interesting if they brought them in, and then you have basically four really big guys. We haven't seen that in a very long time. We usually see the underdogs and something, and both tag teams have very good matches. Obviously, Ascension is doing way more into the squash territory in NXT. They haven't really had a lot of those lengthy matches, but it'd be cool if sort of Harper and Rowan almost got jealous, or they actually started talking more. Like, you know what, Bray Wyatt can just try to replace us. Like, we're not taking for that. We're going to take down whoever it is he decides to bring in. Now, very, very simple question to close this out, and I also want to open this to everybody listening. Say the Ascension, Ryan, you're saying that you're not really buying this very much. We don't know if it's going to be one person, two people, how many. But if you could pick out somebody from the NXT roster, because I doubt it would be anybody from Raw or SmackDown, is there anybody else that you think could fit that role?
The guy's pretty new to the scene. They're just starting to build him up on NXT, but I think a guy like Baron Corbin would actually be a pretty good choice. He is a big dude, and I feel like he, his moveset looks pretty good. He's got an awesome finisher.
Similar to Bray Wyatt, actually.
Yeah. He doesn't look like the type of guy that's going to be good on the mic. We haven't heard him speak yet, but I definitely feel like he's a few pieces away from being pretty great, and I think it would be a good place to start would be with Bray Wyatt.
Mm-hmm. It's not a direct answer to your question, but I don't want to see anybody in that role. I think Bray Wyatt needs to do his own thing, not do these dirty heel tactics anymore, and just be a monster.
So then to close it out, then I'll sort of split this into a two-parter. If anybody, for those listening, who would you pick from the NXT roster to be the new guys, or are you going with Keith, which is like, you know what, let Bray Wyatt do his own thing? Personally, I'll actually sort of piggyback with what Mr. McNulty said, which is I think a guy like Baron Corbin would be interesting because he's a big guy, he's a young guy, you know, he's not bearded. It's different. Like, you know, obviously he has that grungy look to him. So it's not sort of like replace X with Y and they're both the same type of person. You know, we're getting a younger guy, different moveset, maybe focusing on just one wrestler as opposed to a tag team. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see where they take this. So moving on to another thing that we didn't get too much of a chance to talk about last week, and in many ways we're happy because now we got a little bit more confirmation as to what's going to be happening at Hell in a Cell. So during Raw, they announced that John Cena will take on Dean Ambrose, and the winner of that match will go on to face Seth Rollins inside the Hell in a Cell. Obviously, this is way different than anything we've really been exposed to before. We talked about, you know, like last week, that is the Hell in a Cell match even necessary? Check out last week's show on that, but I want to take this to you first, Keith, since you didn't really get much of a chance to talk last week, or at all, because you weren't here. Are you happy with the way that this is going on right now, which is like this tier to get to Rollins, and then we get a Hell in a Cell match?
I think it's cool. Now, one thing I wasn't clear about is that John Cena Dean Ambrose match before Hell in a Cell, or are they doing it like a WrestleMania style thing?
Yeah, it's a WrestleMania style thing from what at least they made reference to. So I guess they're taking on each other at the same pay-per-view, and then at the main event or something, they're going to be taking on Rollins, which obviously means that, number one, Brock Lesnar's probably not going to defend or be anywhere near that. So this is sort of their way of booking the show.
It's fascinating because it could either be one of the best things ever or the absolute worst thing ever, depending on who wins that Cena Ambrose match. Because if Ambrose wins, that's awesome. We get to see Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose in a Hell in a Cell match. That's probably going to be a great match. If John Cena wins, it'll probably be like the fires of Mount Doom rising up to come smiteth the Hell in a Cell.
You gotta stop playing Shadows of Mordor.
I've been playing a lot of Shadows of Mordor.
Yeah, I can tell. What do you think, Mr. Ryan?
I expected a reference at some point. This is quite an interesting situation because obviously the best case scenario for Ambrose fans out there, and what most fans would want to see is Ambrose beats Cena, then Ambrose faces Rollins and wins in the Hell in a Cell. But that is just way too good of a scenario to actually ever happen. I feel like there's no chance that happens. Something is going to disrupt this, the flow of things. You know, Cena is either going to win or Ambrose somehow wins and then loses in the Hell in a Cell. It's an interesting dynamic, though, because I can't see for the life of me, at this point in time, Dean Ambrose getting a pin over Cena. I just don't see it right now, and it's unfortunate.
But could you see a dirty pin? Like Orton or somebody comes in, screws Cena, and that's how Orton gets in, or that's how Ambrose gets into the cell?
You know, I'm not really sure, but it's just like, I mean, think of the level that Daniel Bryan had to get before he got a pin over Cena. So, and then never mind the fact that then he goes ahead and beats Rollins in the cell. It's a really interesting situation. So at least they made it intriguing. And you know what? I think this is a pretty darn good replacement for their title match, the way that they've set this up. I think, I give them a lot of credit because this is a really interesting dynamic. And so, I mean, I have no idea what's going to happen. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing.
Bang. No, and they're using the tactic that really helped a lot in WrestleMania. Because, I mean, before WrestleMania, we were sort of like, we don't know what's going to happen. Then they did the whole Dana Bryan thing, and everybody was like, yes, no pun intended. You know, we're getting something different. Obviously, with Brock Lesnar not being there, they're probably thinking, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Number one, I do think that there's almost no way that Dean Ambrose can beat John Cena. I like that they're doing the whole gray area thing, so... I mean, we can even get to the whole, like, Dean Ambrose having a different finisher because he did that double-arm DDT on John Cena. But what I think, and I'm just going to pitch this to you guys, is John Cena's going to beat Dean Ambrose. People are going to boo. I mean, do you guys know where Hell in a Cell is going to be? I forget.
I can find
Okay,
out.
so while you do that, sir, John Cena beating Seth Rollins, and then halfway into the match, Dean Ambrose is crazy. He's going to break the cell. He's going to figure out a way to get in, and it's going to be sort of almost a triple threat match, except only two of the people can actually win the match. So that way you're getting Dean Ambrose inside Hell in a Cell. You're getting John Cena winning, so it makes Vince McMahon all happy. You get Seth Rollins getting all this focus because you got two guys. Dallas, Texas. So that's... do you guys think that that's a good place to, everything that I'm saying right now? Do you think the crowd would sort of...
I'm going to guess the crowd's pro Ambrose. I mean, pretty much every crowd now you get. Who
doesn't
split,
love Ambrose?
Yeah.
Titty master, man. I mean, you can't hate the guy. I'm surprised I'm the one saying that on the show. No, but I think that's the possibility. What do you think, Ryan? Do you like that? Cena wins and then Ambrose interferes. Lol.
I actually that's one of the scenarios I was really thinking of is no matter what, you're going to see Ambrose in that cell, whether he beats Cena with some, he's not beating Cena clean. I'm pretty confident in that. But one way or the other, he's going to find his way into the cell, whether he wins or not. I completely agree there.
Yeah, I never even considered your point, Juan, but that makes a lot of sense.
Thank you, sir. That's very, very nice of you. So, for everybody listening, what's going to happen here? Because, I mean, obviously this was just announced, so they can announce so many more layers of this. I mean, they can even go as far as to putting the Money in the Bank briefcase on the line at some point, which I definitely think that's going to happen. Just quick tidbit before we close this out, though. Dean Ambrose finisher. It used to be the Dirty Deeds, and some people were saying that the double arm DDT was a one-time thing. But apparently he's been doing that at multiple house shows. So it seems to be that this is the new finisher for Dean Ambrose. Keith, taking this to you first. Brella, what do you think of it?
I think Dean Ambrose needed a new finisher, and a double arm DDT is a pretty good one, because not only is it like a quick bang out of nowhere double arm DDT move, it's one of those moves that has a legacy with it. With Cactus Jack using it and Cactus Jack's character from back in the day. So it kind of fits.
Mr. McNulty.
I like it. Number one, because Adam Rose kind of was cramping his style with his finisher.
True.
And also you got EC3 using a similar finisher in TNA. Not that WWE kind of even cares about what's going on in TNA, but I think that's, good to have, something different. And you know what? Nobody's using double arm DDT, and I think he's definitely a worthy person to use it.
No, and one thing that I really like about it is that, I mean, I love Mick Foley, but a lot of the times I wasn't a big fan of his double arm DDT. It was almost like a side pedigree, but it didn't look like a DDT. At least the way John Cena sold it on Raw and the way...
Shut up, Smart.
Leave me alone, man. No, but the way he did it on Raw, it was very much like a pile driver, DDT, like dropping the guy on the head type thing. And I really like how he got up really quickly, so I think it fits the character a lot more. So for everybody listening, once again, let us know, finisher, is it good, is it not? What else should it be? I mean, Dean Ambrose isn't the biggest guy, so I don't think a lifting move is within his realm. But speaking of venturing into different rounds, it's time for this week's Tweet of the Week!
That's right. It's not a combo breaker, but it's money shot time. This week's Tweet of the Week is brought to you by Sam Wheeler at Wheeler Dealer on Twitter. Had a bit of an identity crisis, let's say, this week during Raw. Something crazy happened. It was some Freaky Friday shiz night. This week's Tweet of the Week is, wait a second. Reigns appeared via satellite and Rock appeared live. Hashtag wizardry. Hashtag wizardry. Hashtag Raw at TNA Creative.
Tweet of the Week!
Thank you, Keith, for that somewhat maybe beautiful tweet of the week. Remember, you can catch us on Twitter at ByteThatCast. You can also like us on Facebook, searching the very same thing, at ByteThatCast. Check out the YouTube channel where this week, Mr. McNulty and myself, after a 0-week hiatus, okay, it never left, and it's coming back. We got Fight Night, a brand new version of it. So I want to take this to you, Ryan. You know, we wanted to sort of spice things up a bit, so we put some curry, we put some sea salt on that, and then we got this. So what is it that we're getting?
What is it that we're getting? Well, we're getting another match with, I will be debuting a new created character and facing one of Juan's that, you've already seen, Mr. Sugar Dandy. Yeah. We're just doing a straight up singles match, and we're kind of taking a step back from it just being about, me and Juan. We're very selfless people. It's not just about us. So we're just more focused on, commentating the action in the ring. And we've had a lot of fun making these videos, so we can't wait to show you guys this one this week.
Yeah, we always play this on WWE 2K14, so we use our created superstars. So what we did was we recorded, and then we sort of did the voiceover, the play-by-play commentary, and sort of had fun with that, because how many times do we make fun of, Michael Cole or GBL? Here's your opportunity to make fun of us. So watch those videos and let us know how good or how terrible we are by watching over at youtube.com/ByteThatCast.
It pretty much came down to the fact that we have way better matches when we post-commentate the videos.
Yeah, that's the legitimate reason. Half the time we were just like, oh.
You're basically Taz and Michael Cole. You do SmackDown, then you'd go into a studio and record it later that week.
Wow, so Paul Heyman directs us? That's amazing, man. That is awesome. Okay, so getting into very, very bitter territories. This was announced yesterday. Brian Christopher, some of you know him as Grandmaster Sexay, came out with a brand new album called Bringing Sexay Back. Because, of course, Bringing Sexay, so it's got to have an A. It's got to have his bit of a spice to it. And he says that every wrestling fan has to own this. Obviously, for a little bit of context, Brian Christopher is actually Jerry the King Lawler's son, who actually somehow manages to look older than his father.
It's sad, but it's terrifyingly true.
Yeah, so I think that, instead of talking about it, I'm actually going to pull up my phone near the microphone, give you a little bit of a preview of a song called Puppies, so that...
Not to wow you with our amazing technology here, but exactly. Juan is about to play you a little sample.
Let's do it. 3, 2, 1... Just to clarify, he said puppies at that last part because it's a little bit of mumbled. Like, I know the cell phone quality is really bad, but the album itself doesn't sound that much better.
It's really bad.
Yeah. So we felt we needed to bring this up. So I forced these two gentlemen to listen to this just before we hit the record button. So I don't really know if you guys like it or not. So taking it first to Mr. McNulty, who seems to have a really severe headache right now. What's your take on this?
Well, I'm just looking at the album art, and I like how back is actually spelled backwards. It reminds me a lot of Relic, which is killer spelled backwards, by the way. Yeah, it looks like it was made in like MS Paint, although he did use... everything's black and white except for his name and the microphone.
And his eyes,
it's really
which
cool.
are green.
What's that Photoshop effect called? Do you know what that's... I don't know what that's called, but people like to do it and think they're all like artistic and stuff. Anyway, you can go on Amazon and go preview every single song.
Don't tell them where to buy it. No, then people might actually buy it. No.
You can get the preview, and if you're actually willing to pay 99 cents to torture yourself, you can buy each song individually. How much is the whole album? $8.99. So you get a deal if you buy the whole album.
Well, if you have Spotify, you don't need to spend any money. Like I did. I found it was on Spotify this morning, so I looked it up, and there it was. But you're avoiding the question, Ryan. Did you like it?
Did I like it? Well, let's put it this way. Most of it is a country album, and I hate mainstream country as it is. So how much do you think I like this? You know what? The funny thing is, though, I probably still would rather listen to this than mainstream country, because it's on that line of so bad it's good territory, except it's not good, but it's almost there. It's almost
How can you say it's so bad? It's got songs like Going Down, like Going. It doesn't even have that second G. They can't afford it. You got Bad News.
Well, that's country, dude.
With a Z.
The way that they spell it. The thing is, though, like I said, not quite so bad it's good. Unlike the Hulk Hogan album, that is gold.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Okay? Yeah, that don't you say a bad word about that.
No, I was about to say how awesome it is. Like the world just lost another Hulkamaniac, and I Want to Be a Hulkamaniac. Those songs are hilarious. So this is just straight up bad, but still better than most of the stuff on the country stations. So yeah.
What about you, Keith? You're just staring at the computer screen.
You know, I feel really dirty about even talking about it, because if one person listens to this album because we talked about it, we did the world an injustice.
Oh, man.
And that's all I'm saying.
No, you got to do yourself a favor. I mean, if you have Spotify like I do, it doesn't really cost you anything to check it out. So listen, my recommendation, listen to like either Going Down, Bad News, Jabroni, or even I'm Too Sexy. Guess which song he's covering. I mean, the originality.
You're recommending this? What the hell's wrong with you?
It doesn't cost anything. I mean, unless you have Spotify Premium, why not?
This is our pick of the week without the
you know what it costs?
The stinger.
It costs 5 dignity. That's what it costs.
Well, fine. Well, you know what?
I'm done.
-5 dignity.
Well, Grandmaster Sexy, Brian Christopher, whatever you want to call yourself. I'm not sure what his intentions were by doing this album, but hey, there it is. It's a thing. So why not? Okay, so after that amazing segment, we gotta clean ourselves here a little bit. So what better way than to actually bring up some questions that everybody listening, thanks for sending them. So Mr. Keith Poshik, what do we got first?
Well, okay, let's pull the curtain back for a second here. We have a show like agenda every week, so we know what the hell we're talking about. And somebody in this agenda put "Answer me Twitter questions 3," and that is the greatest. So we will answer these Twitter questions.
You're welcome,
3.
baby.
Love you. All right. Question number 1 from Bitey number 4, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Roach McPoach. He asks, with these new Wyatt family segments airing, how would you have booked the Wyatts from their debut to now? #Roach equals ratings. So how'd you book them?
Ryan, what do you got?
Oh, wow. Just passing off a load of a question.
Of course
there.
I am.
All right.
Yeah, he loves passing off loads.
Oh, man.
Set them up and you knock them down. Anyway.
Moscow Moose Knuckles.
All right, let's regroup. I'm regrouping. Okay, this question. This is a big one, man. But I think I wouldn't have thrown them into the fire so quickly. First of all, I wouldn't book them in an Inferno match. See what I did there?
Speaking of throwing them into the fire,
okay,
well played.
First of all, I think they booked the tag team of Harper and Rowan pretty well up until what looks like they're now abandoning them. Let me just clarify there. But as far as Bray Wyatt, I think we're seeing the issue where he's just kind of disappeared because they gave him such strong opponents in a row, and then now he just has nobody worthy to kind of follow up with. So I just don't think I would have rushed Bray Wyatt so quickly. I mean, his first year having a WrestleMania match with John Cena, that is great that Cena was, trying to help elevate, but I think it was, much like Tony Atlas says, too much too soon with the career there. So I would have kind of slowed things down and given Bray Wyatt a few solid mid-card feuds, and I probably would have given Harper and Rowan a run with the tag titles. So there's my answer.
Yeah, for me, it's actually similar because realistically, I didn't mind the way they were getting booked a lot. I mean, as you mentioned, Eric Rowan and Luke Harper have pretty much always looked strong. Bray Wyatt as a character, there were a couple times where he was getting a little bit stale or not really going anywhere for me. But, I mean, when you take on guys like Jericho, D-Bry, John Cena, I would have done the same thing except that last man standing match. I think that was the key point where things sort of started going down a little bit.
Sorry to interrupt you, but one thing I do want to point out is I would have also given them a clear motivation. I think a big thing with Bray Wyatt is a lot of his talk, although it sounds really cool, means absolutely nothing.
No, and that's exactly where I was going to next. We've heard his monologue so much, but it's like, okay, so where is this going? I would have actually had him sort of like recruiting people, like not joining the Wyatt family, but believing that message. Ironically enough, his brother Bo Dallas was sort of doing something quite similar to that. But in the way that, like, say, he became Intercontinental Champion for the sake of, like, just being in a certain category, like, dominate that. Have it be so if you're going into that territory, you got to go through Luke Harper, Eric Rowan, like, you got to go into his world. Like, if he was U.S. champion, same thing. Like, tag team champions, like, they create this ambience, like, this atmosphere wherever they are. And his message would have been justified. But no, instead we just got, the message and then the matches. So there was nothing really else. And it's really sad about Harper and Rowan because they're getting split up or something, but they never really, grew stale. They always had good matches. They're strong characters. They're great wrestlers. So I'm just worried that they really, I know this is sort of getting away from the question, but I just wanted to say it one last time. I'm just really sad if they don't do anything with them, which I actually think they won't.
They could also use some more footage of them in that, like, old house and stuff. I like that stuff. So they needed more of that too.
Yeah, background story, all of that would have been cool.
Exactly. I think I would have gone a little more with the background story, but I agree with how they booked Bray Wyatt up until the whole world in his hands thing. The one thing that I didn't really like before that was, personally, I would have liked the Daniel Bryan thing to be a little more than it actually was. Because, honestly, even though that's one of the coolest moments on Raw in a long time when he was on top of the cage doing the yes chant, that was just like a fart in church the way that turned out. It's like, oh, he's joining the Wyatt family. 2 weeks later, he's no longer in the Wyatt family. But I feel like the whole world in his hands thing just lost him all the momentum he had, because then he just became another guy with a catchphrase. And it just, that's kind of where it all fell apart, really.
And I think that's an amazing point because they tried to apply the same thing with Dana Bryan, which is, hey, give a guy a catchphrase. Oh, people are using the cell phones. Like, let's make that part of the entrance. So much to the point where Bray Wyatt just became another guy. So for everybody listening, thank you, Roach, for this is a really awesome question because
Roach does equal ratings, you might say.
Yeah, you do, sir. We love you. And by the way, just quick plug, he just released check out our Facebook page at /Byte That Cast. If you don't like Brie Bella's theme, he actually did his own version based off of Dana Bryan's theme. I posted it on the Facebook page, so you can definitely check that out if you want a little bit of a change from the traditional diva theme. So, Keith, that is question number 1, man, but I have a feeling we're not done yet.
No. I said answer these questions 3, so we're only a third done.
2.
Thank you very much. But question number 2, from Mr. Brelo Light, the man, the also myth, the also legend. He asks, how badly do you think the injuries of Bryan, Reigns, and Bad News Barrett screwed up the plans WWE had going forward? How would you rate their ability to cope with it and advance their storylines on a scale of 1 to 10?
I'll start with this one. How badly did all three of them getting injured screw up their plans? Well, for Reigns and Bryan, I would say a whole hell of a lot.
Yeah.
For Barrett, not as much. It didn't seem like they had any long-term plans for Barrett, but they definitely had plans with Lesnar and Bryan, and obviously Reigns potentially main eventing this coming year's WrestleMania. So, and how would I rate how they've managed it? I would give them a 5 for both, because it's not like they changed too much. They just plugged a new guy in there. For Bryan, they just plugged in Cena. And for Reigns, they kind of just plugged in Ambrose. So they didn't really change too much. They just put in a new guy. So I give them like half credit for both.
Yeah, there was a dark period for a while there where it seemed like, oh God, everything's going to go bad now that they're gone. But they're starting to pick up pace now with Ambrose and Rollins and that storyline. So it's getting better, but there was definitely a slump. And I feel like Daniel Bryan being injured was a huge cause of that slump.
Yeah, definitely. I think that out of the three, I don't think anybody's going to disagree by saying that Daniel Bryan's the one that really, he was at his peak when he got injured. With Bandius Barrett, it's what Ryan said. We're big fans of him, but let's be honest. What was he going to be? Champion, and then, what? There wasn't really anything else. However, with Reigns...
I'm afraid I've got some bad news.
Exactly. But with Reigns, I think that's the biggest threat, I guess, to his career right now, because with D-Bry, he was so over. You're like, okay, so when he comes back, people are just going to go crazy for him. But with Reigns, it was like, let's switch it to Ambrose. And then a week later, everybody's like, okay, yeah, I'll take Ambrose. Like, I will easily take Ambrose. Even this week when he was on Raw, you have a New York audience, and the people were popping for Reigns being on satellite, but it was kind of like, cool, man. When you're back, we'll see you back. But I didn't really feel anything else. And as for part 2 of the advancing storylines, I'll give him like a 4, almost even like a 3, because I think it's an issue. Like what you mentioned, Ryan, I agree that's what they did. They just plugged another guy in. But when you can easily just replace guy A with guy B, that tells me a lot about your characters. It's like you can't switch. We keep bringing up, Walter White, but I'll always think that's the best character example. You can't replace that character with another character because there's just so many elements. And when you can easily do that in 1 week, it's like, come on, you're doing something wrong.
Damn, dude.
Yeah, I think that's it.
You just had like the best take I think you've ever had on this show right there. That was perfect. What else can be said? I really like that point though, that you probably have a problem with your show if you can just plug in a new guy and everything can run relatively smoothly. You couldn't just plug the next guy into Stone Cold Steve Austin's role. Or you couldn't just have the next guy be like The Rock in his role. So, awesome points.
But isn't Dean Ambrose kind of the counterpoint to that? Because I don't think you could plug anybody into Ambrose's role right now and play his character and it go exactly the same.
Well, I think that's where we're at right now, which is like, it's working, but it's working because somebody got injured. Let's be honest. The way that Ambrose was being booked before that, it was sort of like, okay, he's going to be lukewarm. But the question is, once Reigns comes back, he was just plugged in as Guy B. So is he going to be Guy B again? Or are they going to actually tell Reigns like, hey, you know what? We kind of like Ambrose a little more.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's Daniel Bryan. When he left, like you said, he was very established at this point. So when he comes back, it's pretty safe to say he's going to have a secure spot. But with Ambrose kind of taking over Reigns' spot, it's kind of like Reigns could potentially lose out if Ambrose gets enough steam and becomes, a big deal. So, Reigns is in a lot of trouble.
Believe that.
I think it's a total real possibility that Reigns just gets lost in this shuffle. Plus, think about, say Reigns comes back and they kind of force him into that old spot that he had. It almost feels like he's a new generation Batista.
Yeah, you could have another Batista D-Bry situation.
Exactly, where Ambrose is now the guy that everybody wants to see, but Roman Reigns is in that position.
Did we talk about that before? Reigns came back and won the Rumble, and then people would be pissed and cheer for Ambrose. So you could have an exact same scenario.
Yeah, it's crazy because with a guy like Batista, he likes being a heel. I mean, he said it in multiple interviews, and it works best. So that whole thing with Batista, it's like, okay, he can make it work. But Reigns is so new, you got to ask yourself, can he do that? That's a topic for another day, maybe when he comes back. But thank you for that awesome question, man. That was a really good conversation. Now, we're still not done. We got one more question. So, Keith.
Exactly. Here is number 3 of the questions. It is from Mr. Noah Young. What are your views on the WWE repeating the same main event on both Raw and SmackDown week after week after week? I added the week part on as my own thing, but regardless.
There are 2 ways to answer this. One is the production, low attention span audience thing. Then the other one is like us as wrestling fans. I mean, I've said it time and time again, we get punished a lot because we consume the product on a weekly basis. That's almost bad because not everybody's on that same chair, that same seat where they watch it on a weekly basis. I mean, I know people that basically only watch pay-per-views. I can't imagine doing that. But for them, you got to repeat matches on Raw and SmackDown, I guess, just hoping they watch one or the other. And how many times, I'll take one step further, they repeat the pay-per-view match on Raw like the night after in case, you still got to capture an audience. I think that takes a lot of it away because if the storyline is mediocre, all you have left is wanting to see that match. So when you just give that match, you whore it out everywhere. It's like, okay, so what am I left with?
Because what the main event has been recently, I'm all right with it. The whole Dean Ambrose, John Cena, Kane, Randy Orton thing. But the problem with it is that there's never been a definitive finish to any of the matches. It's just disqualification after disqualification after disqualification. It just kind of... When I say the words Raw main event, what do you think?
I want to go to bed.
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing to look forward to with it. Like, oh, wonder who's going to potentially get hit with a cinder block this week. Ooh.
Well, when it comes to SmackDown, SmackDown is on Fridays because it doesn't matter, and SmackDown doesn't matter because it's on Fridays. It's just a lose-lose situation. It hasn't been relevant since the brand split has diminished. And they can't figure out a way to make people care. Yet they still oversaturate by adding an hour to Raw in a main event. So now SmackDown has even less to offer.
To be fair, they have been moving in a direction where SmackDown means more. They are progressing storylines and stuff on SmackDown, especially the whole Ambrose Cena thing. Like, an important story point in that story happened on SmackDown last week with the whole... like Cena going after Ambrose and then, no, not going after Rollins and then leaving Ambrose in the ring. And that's the whole betrayal thing. They've mentioned it multiple times on Raw last night.
Yeah, they are doing more things on SmackDown. But honestly, for me, I'll just be honest. And I know both of you will probably agree. With Raw being a 3-hour show, there's only so much other time I can take of WWE content. Like 5 hours a week. And out of those 5 hours, how many do I actually enjoy? I mean, Raw lately, it's, if I wasn't watching with you guys, I'd be really, really struggling hard. I mean, last night I was very sleepy, but work-related and all that stuff, but it didn't really capture my attention. So risk myself watching SmackDown without reading the spoilers, hoping to get something that I didn't get on Raw that's just going to be recapped on Raw, to me, at least, is a waste of time. For everybody listening... do you watch SmackDown? Do you think you get, those layers of storylines, or is it just better off waiting for Monday?
Just watch the YouTube version. It's great. That's what I do.
Yeah, that's what I do. Like whenever something like that happens, I just catch it there. But I mean, it doesn't really count watching the show on Friday because I probably never will. I don't even have the channel, so I can't watch it.
Yeah, not a chance.
When it comes down to SmackDown, it's really like, I'm willing to not watch it, and then if I hear about something awesome happening, I can just go and watch it. Otherwise, I don't feel like I'm missing too much.
Yeah, so obviously the spoilers, a lot of stuff plays in, but thank you, Roach, thank you, Noah, thank you, Brelo Light, for It was really interesting questions. They brought up a lot of stuff. So remember, you can send us questions over at Byte That Cast on our Twitter. You can do so on our Facebook. We don't show enough love for our Gmail account, but you can also send us an email, bytethatcast@gmail.com. So with that being said, Mr. McNulty, take us home.
Yes, it is time to end the show. So once again, thank you guys for listening. Before we go, the usual plugs. So let's go through it one by one, shall we? As always, the YouTube the YouTube channel. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We just passed 700 subscribers. We want to get to 1,000 by the end of the year. So why don't you guys help us get there? If you haven't hit that subscribe button, make sure to do that. As we mentioned earlier in the show, we're going to have our fight night up this Thursday where me and Juan are going to be commentating a match in WWE 2K14. Those are always a lot of fun. I'm going to be doing another discussion video or something of that nature this weekend, so stay tuned for that as well. And interact with us on social media, our Twitter @ByteThatCast, and our Facebook, facebook.com/Byte That Cast. Remember, you can send us questions for the show like we just answered earlier. So once again, thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next week.